All right. We are seeing a lot of liveliness in the early part of the day. And guys, what I will say is that BTC has set a new all-time high. Very exciting stuff. And why this is in fact so exciting is because we are getting an XRP breakout at the time of filming this video. Now, what I will say is that a lot of times we've seen these breakouts and then retracements following that. And we're going to talk about if this is going to continue from here in this video. But what I do want to mention as well is that Grayscale has named something that is actually harming investors currently surrounding XRP right now. And what we also want to talk about is this Deepseek projection for XRP price. And I think that this is going to be eye-opening for a lot of people. So if you guys are new or haven't already, show your support for the channel down below. Hit that subscribe button, that bell. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So yes, BTC did in fact set a new all-time high. We actually surged up to 119,379. It's a great sign. And hopefully it continues as the day progresses. The only negative thing I will say here is that we are opening up some huge CME gaps currently. All right. We did in fact open up one from Thursday to Friday. Obviously, we're opening up one right now because BTC is above these current CME prices. And what I will say is that many times these CME gaps get closed. Not always, though. In fact, we have one back here at about 91K from April that didn't close. And I want to reference all the way back to last market cycle, because when we started to get into this rip-roaring time in the market where adoption kicked off and we got a true alt season, there was a CME gap that was created that wasn't closed until the bear market cycle. All right. So maybe we don't close these and maybe it's just up and away, but we won't know until we get into the week and see how assets perform. Sometimes you can get so extended from price that it frankly doesn't matter. All right. Now, what I will say is there is something that can help XRP in the long term that we haven't been able to see yet. And this is actually the approval of an XRP spot ETF. And Grayscale has actually come out and said that investors are suffering harm because of this halt of an ETF or spot ETF approval. Now, if you guys remember, there are in fact 10 spot ETFs currently filed for XRP, and none of them have currently been approved. And the SEC is just kind of dragging their feet on this, and hopefully we can get an approval sometime soon. I think we're getting very close to that point. I definitely think I think we have 100% likelihood of getting one here in 2025. Obviously, there's no guarantees. Nobody knows what's going to happen for sure, but that could obviously bring very big things to XRP itself. And one of the reasons they're probably complaining is that for many of these institutional players, having access to an XRP spot ETF is a pretty big deal. So right now, or at least as of late, they've been missing out on some of these lower prices, getting into XRP at these discounts. And so, yes, in a sense, it is in fact hurting holders or investors. And actually, it's somewhat hurting XRP holders because we haven't been able to see what type of impact an XRP spot ETF can have on price. Just for a little bit of context, since we first got the approvals for Ethereum spot ETFs, there's been $5.31 billion worth of ETH accumulated by institutional players. And this actually includes the $4.26 billion that's been dumped by Grayscale in that time. So maybe Grayscale's just saying this just so they can do some unloading while other institutions are buying. Frankly, it doesn't really matter because it's a net positive, right? And again, just think about this. Ethereum has seen this much. There are currently more filings than there are approvals. There are more filings for an XRP spot ETF approval than there are spot ETF approvals on the Ethereum side because there's only 9 there. All right. So just something to consider here. Now, I did come across this Deepseek projection for XRP that I want to read to you guys because I think that this is very interesting. So Deepseek AI's most recent projections suggest Ripple XRP could see a dramatic rise, potentially touching $5 by the end of the year, representing more than a 6-fold jump from its current price near 2.36. That's obviously not a 6-fold, and bear with me on the $5, guys. Multiple catalysts support this bullish view. Ripple's decisive court victory against the SEC, increased institutional adoption, and market speculation regarding the potential approval of an XRP spot ETF here in the US. The United Nations Capital Development Fund has praised XRP's speed, low transaction costs, and regulatory compliance, strengthening its utility for international remittances. Ripple's protracted legal battle concluded in March when the SEC dropped its lawsuit following a critical 2023 judgment confirming XRP's retail sales were not securities transactions. This legal clarity has significantly improved investor confidence, and this is true. That was when we first saw a big pivot in terms of XRP price. If you guys remember, that was back in, gosh, what was that? June, July of 2023. With XRP trading at $2.82, the next immediate resistance barrier is at $3. If breached, Deepseek AI predicts a run towards $5 by the end of 2025. But if a bull run takes hold, this extremely high performing coin could hit $15 under optimal market conditions. And guys, those optimal market conditions, like we've talked about, are more adoption in terms of XRP Ledger, RippleNet, payments here in the US. Obviously, overtaking Swift would be a pretty big deal, or some type of partnership with Swift. Obviously, RLUSD going on significant surges from a $50 million market cap to a $500 million market cap is something that I don't think has stopped. That's going to keep rolling as time goes on, potentially bringing more interoperability and liquidity to the Ripple ecosystem. I mean, there are obviously a spot ETF approval would be a very big deal. US interest in general, now that XRP is listed on many exchanges here in the US, and with new retail coming to the space, it's obviously a pretty big safe haven, especially considering the price is so low compared to Ethereum and BTC. I mean, there's a lot of things that you could point to that you can start seeing this $15 XRP become a reality. I'm not saying that it's going to happen for sure. Like we've talked about in other videos, my projections for this cycle are still $8 to $12. But guys, if we start getting major adoption, getting into mass adoption, if we have a super cycle, blow off tops, don't be surprised if you're seeing XRP and many other assets crush these expectations. My projection for this market cycle for BTC had been between 125 to 150K. Right now, we're on the doorstep of 125K. And really, we're just getting rolling. And again, the fact that retail's not here yet gives me a lot of confidence for where things can head. But that's kind of where we're at. So we'll see if this continues through the weekend. Again, even right now, we've seen XRP pull back within structure. Not a surprising thing, guys, but we'll see what happens, especially as we get into the week. So I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think XRP hitting $15 is possible? Do you think we're going to get an XRP spot ETF approval here in 2025? So I appreciate you guys as always. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts below, but have a great day. Catch you guys in the next one. Take care.